Are you stuck? How about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for Magical Moments with Alena as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. In just 60 minutes, Alena will help you take control of your life and push you to do the things you never thought you'd do. So get ready to take back your power and celebrate life with Magical Moments featuring Alena Chapman.
Welcome to Magical Moments, and I'm your host, Alena Chapman, and I love it because we are all about that ease and betterment in your life. And you know something? Sometimes we just have to believe we deserve it. And I have a magical nugget for you today. I was very, perplexed last week. I was recording this show, and then I was supposed to go down to Indy, which is in Indianapolis. So as I was going on, I got into my car, I put the GPS on, and then I got on a Zoom meeting. So I was listening to the Zoom meeting and doing that and not really paying attention, taking the turns when I need to. And guess what? I ended up in Ohio. And I looked at the sign and it said, "Welcome to Ohio." And I was like, how did I get to Ohio? Wait a minute. How did this happen? Okay. So that was just my not paying attention to where I was really turning. I was following the GPS, but guess what? The GPS was wrong. But here was the fascinating thing, and this is what I want to talk about. As I was trying to get back, first I pulled over and I called the appointment down there and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a half an hour late because it's going to take me 2 hours to get back." And they said, no problem, gave me the new address. I put that in new and off I went. But no matter what I did, it was like I was in quicksand. I was just constantly on these country roads, lots of corn and soy. If you are in Indiana, you see corn and soy everywhere, and you know what I'm talking about. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, why aren't I getting back on 69? Where is 69, which is our main road? And yet I couldn't get there. And then when I did, I was way out of the way and had to kind of push on that gas to get down there. So needless to say, I was almost there, and I get a call, and I was right when I said I would be there, and I get a call, and they say, "Well, we can't hold it that long now." I said, "Oh?" I said, "What do you mean you can't hold it? I thought we worked this out," and they said, "No, we can't." So I'm there, but the appointment is not there. I had a hard time going to that appointment. I mean, it really was like a frickin' maze. And yet, I never made it to the appointment. Now, this is the thing. I first sat there and I could have beaten myself up. Oh my gosh, why did you have to pay attention to that Zoom call? Why didn't you pay attention to all the wrong turns? You know, you thought it was taking you a back road way, but oh no, it took you to Ohio. You should have been paying attention. I could have really racked myself over the coals. And I am kind of guessing that most of us out there do. We rack ourselves over the coals. But here's the thing. Did you ever think that maybe the things that don't turn out, there's a reason much bigger than you could ever know? Do you have enough faith and trust that there is something bigger that is looking out for you? There are signs from God, the universe, angels, spirits, whatever you believe in your system, but I'm telling you, they are reaching out to you constantly. And stuff like that just feels like this weird world you have just entered into that you can't get out of a situation in some way. There's a reason. Or you can't get where you're going. There is a reason. And you got to open your eyes and just allow it. And guess what? The time will come when another door opens, or even that same door opens, but whatever it was that was not right for me to be there that day is fine for me another day. So what was it? And do I really need to know, or can I just have faith? Well, that's up to you. Me, I've chosen to just have faith and know that for some reason, I was really, really not meant to go to that appointment. Who knows? Maybe there was going to be an accident. Who knows what it is? But I'll tell you, we've got to learn to have more faith in the world above, the universe. We want to believe so much in things. We have our faith, but do we really have our faith? So on this wonderful day, question yourself, do I really trust that the universe has my back, that God has my back, that all the angels, saints, and entities and everything have my back? And if you believe that, then you won't beat yourself up. And my gosh, that's such a waste of time anyway, isn't it? All right, now we have a fantastic guest today. In fact, I'm very excited about this. Her name is Jana Danielson. And she's a wife, mom of 3 teenage sons. Oh my gosh, so am I. Oh my gosh, do we have to have some coffee, Jana? And then she is also her own Pilates expert. She's certified in Pilates, started teaching out in her home to her family and friends. And in 2010, she opened her first Pilates studio. Now, why is this Pilates so important? Well, number one, I think Pilates is absolutely awesome. I love Pilates. But she started Pilates because of something in her life. We're going to hear her story and how Pilates actually changed everything. In 2015, she expanded her business to a 900 square foot state-of-the-art Pilates studio and integrated health therapies in her hometown of Saskatoon, Canada. Ooh, that's a cool name. Her team of instructors, administrators, and clinicians will top 60 by the end of the year. Isn't this cool? Look at how she's growing this business. Jana launched her online Pilates studio called the Meta District in September of 2019. And this past April, she launched her first pelvic floor fitness tools, and it's called the Cooch Ball. Now, this is so cool. And we're going to talk more about this. And this thing is amazing. I think you're going to just love this thing. I do. So anyway, with that, hello, Jana.
Alena, hello.
Oh, I am so happy to have you on. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm just excited to get to know you a little bit more, tell my story, and hopefully maybe inspire, educate, one or two of your listeners out there with kind of my journey.
I love it. I love it. So, okay. I love Pilates. I love Pilates way back before, when it was from the ballerinas. And I remember this ballerina sent out a tape, and it was all about your own body resistance at that time. Now they got contraptions and everything. But, and I used to do them faithfully. And I just always found it's like isolating muscles, right? Isolating muscles and strengthening them.
Yeah, Pilates, I found Pilates in the fall of 1999, so, over 20 years ago. And I didn't know at the time what an impact it was going to have on my life. I often think of that scientific concept of the butterfly effect where, one simple, small, little moment in time can completely change the trajectory of your life. And I had no idea that was happening to me at the time. But as when I look back and reflect, that's exactly what was happening. See, as I grew up, you talked about the corn and the soy fields, and I grew up in rural Saskatchewan. So it's wheat and canola. And so I had, I think, the luxury of growing up as a farm kid and had, my mom would have big, beautiful gardens every year.
Oh, wow.
And we had space to play, and it was just that small town feel. And so about middle of my high school years, I started to experience some stomach pain, I called it then. And, it would happen when I would be going to write, an exam or waiting for a boy to phone me. And I just,
Yep.
it was just one of those things that, I would tell my mom and she'd be like, oh, and I mean, honestly, A-type, firstborn, very driven. And I and she just chalked it up to just me being a little more on the higher end of, just that kind of
Achieving, goal-oriented,
so,
right.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of accepted that. And as I, finished high school and moved to Saskatoon for university, I did business school here, my pain became more. And it became to the point where it was getting, debilitating. It was impacting my life every single day. And so what I did is I actually named my pain.
I like this.
By naming my pain, it gave my brain it almost tricked my brain. Like when I named my pain, and my pain's name was my edge. That's what I called it. And so when I experienced my pain, I'd be like, all right, everyone, my edge is here. I'm ready for an awesome day. I found myself spinning it into a positive, that it mean that I was ready to go. I was showing up. And
I love this.
Mechanism for me, right?
There was actually in Toronto, there was a psychologist, I think she still is, and I knew her a long time ago, and she used to always say, if you can name it, you can tame it. And,
I love that, yeah.
And that's what you did.
Realize.
This is so cool.
That's exactly.
You took what was a mystery causing you great grief, you named it, made it sort of in a positive way, almost like, okay, it's more of a friend telling me everything is going to be going great. We got a lot to do today. You know what I mean? And all of us, how did that impact you? What did it really do for you?
Well, it was, like I said, it was kind of like my coping mechanism. It really was, because I obviously, I went to my doctor and explained my symptoms, and, right away she thought, well, maybe it's acid reflux, right? It was this burning sensation kind of behind my belly button. And so, one medication, two medications, nothing was changing, kept going back. How when you go from your general practitioner, and then they start going to refer you to different specialists.
Yes.
Well, let's see this, or let's do this test, let's do this test. And over the next year, it was just test after test after test, and everything was like quote unquote normal. There was nothing diagnosable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was looking for, is what is wrong with me? My high school sweetheart, Jason, moved with me to university. We were going through university together. I knew I wanted to marry him one day. I knew I wanted to have a family with him one day. But I just thought, how will I have a successful career? How will I be, God willing, if I do get to be a mom one day, how will that be when I'm living in pain every single day? How will I have a successful marriage full of joy when there's pain all the time?
Yeah.
So it was kind of scary for me. And I was, it finally got to the point where I went to my doctor, and she just said, Jana, we have done everything. We have tried everything. I really feel like this is in your head, and you are seeking attention, and there's really nothing more I can do for you.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, in my early 20s, and it was like someone pulled the rug out from underneath me. I just felt, because I was like, now what? What do I do now?
We had an incident with my middle son, and they couldn't find anything wrong with his stomach. And they said, oh, well, it's in your head. And I thought, okay, but even if it is, say it is emotional, say it is the mind, saying it's all in your head and that you're seeking attention, come on. No, nobody wants to have pain to seek attention. I think that's a belittling. We can't find anything, so it's all pretend. And that's not true. The mind is in control of the body. So whatever is going on with you in your mind can alter every cell, every muscle, every fiber in you. And I just, and I think we've got to start treating the mind as the master of the body instead of, oh, well, you know what, we can't help you, so it's just fake. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Not good.
100%. And so, no. And here I was on this grocery list of medications, and I can remember being at work, and I worked at our university, and I remember laying across my desk, like, just imagine this, like, I would lay on my desk and grab the further corner of my desk, and I would pull the edge that I was laying on into my stomach, and I would just breathe. Like, before a meeting, I'd have to do that because that's just how much pain I was in. And so I just made a decision that day. I kind of picked myself up once I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and I was like, no, like, my body, like, the body is brilliant. There has to be a different way. And, when you talked about, God, the universe, your angels, whatever it is, that evening, I kid you not, I was in line at the grocery store. And keep in mind, again, this is fall of 1999. There's no Google at that point. And I'm standing in line at the grocery store, and I look over and I see Shape magazine. And I see Madonna on the cover of Shape magazine, right? And I'm a pop culture fanatic, and so I noticed Madonna, and diagonally splashed across the cover of the magazine is, I didn't even know how to pronounce the word. It looked like Pilates, and I was like, what is that? So I bought the magazine, and because of course I didn't have a phone to snap a picture of the word, so I bought the magazine, and home I went, and I was like, so then I read this article, and then, they gave you the pronunciation, so Pilates.
Right.
And I grabbed our leisure guide. Like, I was flipping through our City of Saskatoon leisure guide looking for a Pilates class, and I found one. And I decided I was going to go. I'm like, if this is good enough for Madonna, it is good enough for me. And I hurt when I don't move. I hurt when I move. And keep in mind, right, small town girl, if you didn't play every sport your high school offered, you didn't have a team. So I was very athletic, and I loved to move. And I went to my first class. My husband came with me. He went to the gym. I went to my Pilates class. And I looked around the room, and I saw all these men and women that were around the age of my mom and dad. And I was like, and of course, as a high achiever, my first thought was, I'm going to be the most awesome student in this class. Right? And I unrolled my new mat. I bought myself a new mat, new leggings. I was looking the part, and I lay down, and I kid you not, within less than 60 seconds, there were like alarm bells going off in my brain, because all the instructor was asking us to do was inhale completely through our nose, filling our belly button with air, and exhaling out of our mouths to kind of bring your belly button and melt it back towards your spine. And it was like she was speaking a different language.
Yep.
And I was like, what the hell is going on here? What do you mean I can't breathe? It's the first act of life. Why can't I do this? And my body wasn't doing it. My body was clenching and holding, and it felt uncomfortable. And normally I would have head for the hills. I was like, I'm not coming back. But there was something about that night that intrigued me, because I didn't understand why my brain couldn't take the words she was saying and communicate to the parts of my body that needed the message about how to breathe. And that literally, talk about little angels, being at the grocery store, seeing that magazine, finding a class. And, I kept going twice a week, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And I started noticing that I wasn't, prior to Pilates, if I missed one of my doses of medication, I would flare. I would have an episode like nobody's business. And I started noticing, oh, geez, it's 1 o'clock. I was supposed to take these 2 pills at noon, and I'm okay. And I decided I was not going to tell anyone, because I didn't want to jinx it. I just thought it was luck, that there was something lucky about what I was doing. And after
Isn't
about
that something?
Well, it was crazy, because my parents finally phoned and said, listen, we're going to take you to Rochester, Minnesota. We're going to take you to the Mayo Clinic. Let them go over you head to toe. We'll help with the cost. And back then, it was a big deal to go to the Mayo, and it was more expensive, and the travel. And I phoned my mom finally around Christmas, and I'm like, listen, Mom, I think you can cancel that appointment. And she's like, Jana, we have to wait so long to get it. And I'm like, no, I'm doing this exercise called Pilates, and I've been doing it since September. And Mom, I'm almost off all my medication, and my pain has gone away. And I think it's this form of movement. I don't know why, but my body is changing and my mind is changing. And that literally is, that little moment where I talked about the butterfly effect, that little instance, little that I know would then not only change my health and wellness, but my entire career. Because 9 years later, I became certified in Pilates, started teaching out of our home. My boys were 1 and 1 and 2.5 and 4. And I was doing my human resource consulting because that was my career. I ended up going corporate track, HR consulting, and I started impacting other people's lives. And it wasn't just like my sister and my friends. My husband got a bunch of his buddies, and we did guys class twice a week. And it became, people would phone and say, hey, so-and-so is in your class, and I want to come and do this class because she's noticing her back pain going away, or, she'll cough and she won't be peeing her pants like she used to, or can I get my husband in because he's got this knee pain, right? And before our eyes, a business, this passion and hobby was turning into a business.
That's incredible. Well, that's how it works, though. It really does. Once we follow, we get that sign, whatever it may be, and we believe it. Mine started with writing. I just wanted to have fun. I was going through a really hard time in my life, and I'd wake up in the morning because it was just not a good time, and I decided I'm going to have fun every day. And so I'd say, what sounds fun? And at first it was silly stuff, but then one day it says, I want a journal. And when I dropped the boys off at school, I went to the coffee shop because, if you go home, you're going to start doing everything else but journal. Yeah. So I went to the coffee shop, sat down, and the first day was like 20 minutes. Second day was an hour. Before I know it, I have a book. And little did I know that was going to, with everything I was learning through this hard section of my life and how I was growing spiritually, before I know it, I have a book. And then I published that book, and there went the business. It started right there. It's funny how things in our life, if we allow it and we listen to something deeper inside of us, we find our true path. But I want to step back a little bit because I just love this. I love I think, now you correct me if I'm wrong. Number one,
sure.
That breathing is incredible. And actually it's still from the ballerina. The ballerina, that's how you have to breathe. It's bringing everything back to your core. But see, being a person who's very type A plus, then you tighten all those muscles. You're not from your core, you're from your head. You know what I mean? So when you breathe in to change and relax those muscles down there, it was hard because you were gripping like a vice, Yeah,
and I guess I was unknowingly protecting myself.
Did you ever figure out from what?
No. And I just, and not that it's like a hard no, but I think there was just this, and maybe it was like that A-type driven, I must excel at every single thing I do, and I'm going to try and maintain control over every possible piece of my life.
Yeah, awful. Isn't that awful?
Well, yeah, and back then, let's be honest, that was the days of, acid wash jeans, and do you remember laying on your bed with a coat hanger trying to zip up your jeans?
Oh, God, right? Yes, I know.
Right?
How silly we were. Oh, my Lord.
Weight trainers these days that are doing the same thing, but I just feel like I had someone tell me a couple months ago that, God, the universe, like you said, whomever, whatever it is that you are, looking for guidance, there will be whispers throughout your life.
Yes.
And those whispers are not coming just because. They're coming to you because you have the capacity to listen to what that message is. Whether you choose to act on the message or not, it's totally up to you. But, the more I start really diving into, the soulful leadership and, really, having this spiritualness about you, when I go back and think of where I was, I was answering those whispers without really even knowing, because in my mind I was going to be corporate, fill in the blank, whatever, VP of something.
Yes.
And that wasn't my path at all. Really, it was small hometown girl, entrepreneur. And like I said, to grow out of my basement to our first location, our second location, I have 60 amazing people who are spreading the same messaging that came from my heart and soul. And that is, I'm not this army of one. I have 60 amazing people on my team, and now the thousands of clients and patients that walk through our doors to the studio and clinic every day, we also hear them talking to new people. And now it's like that pebble where you throw the pebble into the lake and there's that permeation out, and you just never, ever know whose life you're going to touch. And that's what I want my legacy to be, is that I made people stop and think differently about their health and wellness, or I provided them a tool that changed their life, gave them confidence. So that, I feel like I'm in a super confident place right now, where all of that victimization I was doing and like, I'll never succeed, I'll never, there was a bigger plan for me, and I'm finally feeling like I'm stepping into the shoes that I'm meant to, and I am like strutting down the street.
Yep.
Like this unicorn full of energy that's just ready to go, right?
Right. Well, it is. I mean, it takes something that wakes us up when we're in that society's very hard, stringent way of being. And, I was that kind of girl too, and things were not working. It took the whispers, go sit down and journal. I never journaled in my whole life. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I did it. Mm-hmm. Just, this teacher has something to teach you. So there I went. I just went. These little whispers. And when you follow the little whispers, and they're so ever so soft, and you'll see signs along the way. You get where you just trust. We're going to have to break. But when we get back, we're going to talk about how Jana is now building such a wonderful business, and she truly is a founder and CEO, which she always wanted, but it came a different way. We're going to talk about that. But also, she's got a really cool product that I do want her to share, because she developed it, and it all came from this small whispering voice. So this is Magical Moments. We will be back in 1 minute.
You're listening to Magical Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you find your inner purpose. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com. Thanks for listening. Your weekend continues with Magical Moments featuring Alena Chapman right now.
Welcome back to Magical Moments. I'm your host, Alena Chapman, and we are all about listening to your body, to those soft voices, and really starting to create that ease and betterment in your life, that trust. I am here right now with Jana Danielson, and I have to say, she has got an incredible story, but I want to talk a little bit further about how she's being led by this voice and this faith and the world that she has built now, that she's learned to trust it, and where she's going in the future. So, Jana, we were talking about, how you had to listen, and that, the signs were everywhere. Do you still find that you get these signs and these voices, and are they still leading you forward in ways, or does it only come in a crisis?
No, you know what? The little whispers are there. I mean, last fall, I launched my online Pilates studio, like you mentioned in my bio, the Meta District, and the whispers for that had been happening for years and years and years. See, in Canada, we have a lot of snowbirds, so a lot of retirees, of course, will go to, Arizona, California, Florida, Texas, right, for the winter. And those, that group of clients, they would always tease me like, "Oh, Jana, we wish we could take you in our suitcase." Or, back in the day, it would be like, "Can you please make a DVD and I can take the DVD and still work out with you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not making a DVD. I've got enough going on." It was always like, "No, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you." And then about 3 years ago, I started talking about doing this online studio, and I've been talking about it. And in May of 2019, I was talking about it with my manager at my studio and clinic, and she said to me, "Jana, I have heard this story for the past 3 years," and she said, I also have chosen to be a part of this team because you are you take action. You are action-oriented." And she's like, "I don't know why you're dragging your feet on this. It is the first time that I have not seeing you take action. And it was like someone was just, knocked me between the eyes. And I was like, Tris, you're right. and I don't know. She's like, what are you waiting for? And do you know what I said to her? And I feel I'm going to be totally authentic here and vulnerable. And so I said to her, I need to lose 5 more pounds. And when I lose 5 more pounds, I feel like I will look my best on camera. And she's looking at me and she's like, what are you talking about? Like, I have never, ever, and that's never been part of our studio's values and messaging. Never, ever, ever, right? It's quality of life. And she said, yeah. And then I was like, okay, so, and she said, do you understand or do you recognize all the people that you could be impacting, but you're not because of 5 pounds? And it was one of those magical moments. I just sat there quiet. It seemed like maybe 30 minutes, but it was probably 30 seconds. And I said to her, you're right. And then I said, well, we don't have a video
moment, isn't it?
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, well, let's post expressions of interest to Facebook. So that afternoon, we put an expression of interest out for a videographer and photographer to help me. We got like 50 people that had interest. By the next week, I was shooting videos, doing photo shoots. June 1st, we started this whole thing. We launched on September 12th, so over last summer. We shot like 110 workouts, and we built the site, and we have 7 courses. And so, long answer to your short question, but yeah, those voices continue to find their way into my days. And that's the exact same thing with the Cooch and Gooch ball that...
oh, yes. We got to talk about that. Will you tell people what this is? Because I mentioned it in the intro, and now you have just mentioned it. And it is a very cool little device.
So let me tell you the story about this. So first of all, do you know what I want to say and clear the air is since I launched this in April, I have had like a very... a lot of those, what I would call like come to Jesus moments where I'm outside of my little bubble in Saskatoon with social media. I am loved. I am protected. People think I'm awesome. I've got these super fans. But when I launched, I was opening myself up with the Cooch and Gooch ball to like the whole world.
Oh.
So for the first 48 hours on social media, finally my husband said to me, you need to stop, because every single not so nice comment I was absorbing into my heart.
Oh,
and
you
soul.
Can't. Yes.
And he's like, you got to stop, right? You got to.
Yeah. People are not
educate,
always nice.
Inspire them, right? So this product, I came at it in a sassy, fun way. And the Cooch ball is just meant to break the ice. And here's why. I've been working with women in health and wellness for over 15 years now. And Pilates inherently, because it's about the core, the pelvic floor is a part of your core. It's the floor. Yes. Our diaphragm, the main muscle of respiration, is the ceiling, and then the cylinder are the 4 abdominal muscles that, are abdominal. So when we think about pelvic floor health, we think of the Kegel, we think of the commercials we see on TV for the newly designed, underwear to help with leaks.
Right,
that's what we think. But what we know about fitness, we know this, is that muscles need oxygen-rich, nutrient-rich blood surrounding those tissues to flourish. It's like if you don't water a plant for a month, do you think it's going to flourish? No. So without this healthy blood flow, a muscle can't get stronger. The fascial tissue around the muscle can't be healthy. The nerves that run through our entire body get compromised. And we just think it's because we've had a baby or we're a year older or we're getting into menopause. Like we always have these reasons why our quality of life starts to slowly decline. And I was getting so frustrated because I'd have women in my classes and I would be talking about pelvic floor health and we would be learning how to do a proper pelvic floor activation and release, because every muscle has to do both. It has to work and it has to rest. And everybody would be like cool as a cucumber in class, and then I'd go home and my inbox would be inundated with emails, or they'd be lined up waiting to talk to me after about their situation because they felt like they were the only one. And I was like, no, there has to be a better way. So many of you might know that like a foam roller, a lot of people will roll out their body on a foam roller.
It's great for the back.
Right? Exactly, for the back, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, if we're doing this foam rolling release for our muscles to help get more length, to help get more blood flow, to make sure our joints are working properly, how could we get blood flow into the area of the pelvic floor? Because the Kegel really is only half of the equation, right? I said a muscle has to work and a muscle has to rest.
Right.
Well, the Kegel is the work phase, but what about the rest phase? What about the it's almost like I needed to build a little electrician in the body that would help to rewire the brain's messaging to the pelvic floor. So I started using just these little Tykes playground balls. And for 3 or 4 years, they were awesome. They weren't like optimal, but they did the job. And I started to find that it was getting harder and harder to source these playground balls. And finally, 2.5 years ago, I found 18 playground balls at a toy store in Florida, and I ordered them, and they sold like in 2 days. And so then my team at my studio was like, okay, Jana, we have people phoning and emailing for these pelvic floor balls. What are you going to do? This is a problem. You need to figure out a solution. And I was like, yeah, I do. So I started looking for a manufacturer. I designed it. We had to go back and forth with a few iterations. I finally got the product designed like I wanted it to. So it's now a patented utility patent and design patent ball. It's co-branded. It's Cooch Ball for women, Gooch Ball for men, and the concept is in 3 minutes a day. That's all it takes. You sit on your ball, on the floor, on your bed, on your kitchen chair, and you diaphragmatically breathe. Because like I alluded to earlier, your pelvic floor and your diaphragm are off the floor and ceiling of your core. And this is what was happening in my body 20 years ago. Because I wasn't breathing, I wasn't creating space in my abdomen. My organs didn't have the luxury of having space to be able to function. My pelvic floor was like a rock wall. I didn't know all of this.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I started breathing and my diaphragm started talking to my pelvic floor, things started changing for me. And I am now on this trajectory to disrupt and shake up the pelvic floor wellness world, because we need to start talking.
We do. We really do. There's so much. My mom is older and everything, and I see what her not breathing in the right way and holding so tight has caused major problems. We don't understand what we train our muscles to be what they are. And so, would you, I don't think people are getting it conceptually, but could you give work through a little exercise? Can you give us a little exercise that all the listeners could take 2 minutes or a minute in their car or wherever they are and do to feel what you're saying? Yep.
So actually being in your vehicle is perfect because you have your seatbelt on, so you're going to be able to feel the breath, and then we'll do a little bit of pelvic floor work. So again, keep in mind, pelvic floor and diaphragm work together. So without breath, you cannot have a functional pelvic floor. So as you're sitting wherever, in your office chair, in your vehicle, I want you to inhale through your nose and feel like your belly button is filling with air. Now, this might be contraindicated to how your brain works for breathing, but trust me, this is how we should be breathing. If you're not driving, and you can put one hand on your belly button and one hand on your sternum, which is your flat bone just above the chest, okay? It's flat. You'll feel it. When you inhale through your nose like you're smelling a fresh-baked apple pie, do your best to fill that bottom palm on your belly button. Or if you're driving, your belly button will kind of balloon into your lap belt. And then on the exhale, think of drawing that belly button back away from your seatbelt or from your bottom hand. And continue with this. So just do a few of these breath cycles in through your nose, and don't force it, okay? It's smelling that apple pie. Now on the exhale, I want you to think about, if you were going to fog up your bathroom mirror, you would make like a kind of an HA sound. My boys used to call it sounds like a friendly dragon. So just continue to inhale through your nose and exhale out of your mouth. Now, here's where the pelvic floor comes in. Now, this is kind of like rubbing your head and patting your tummy, so just listen. When you inhale through your nose, your lungs are filling with air and your diaphragm has to kind of get out of the way. So that's the relaxation phase of your pelvic floor. As you exhale and draw your belly button back to your spine, I want you to think of lifting the pelvic floor like an elevator. And then the inhale, that elevator comes back down. Now be mindful, our glutes, our butt muscles are really good at helping out when we don't need them to. As you exhale and lift that pelvic floor, your glutes should be working a bit, but not clenching. It's not like a big, a big, strong movement. It's subtle, okay? So if you were to do this, 10 times in the morning and 10 times in the evening, now I'm going to give you a new visualization as well. It's a little more graphic, but I heard this at a conference, and it stuck with me. So as you are lifting your elevator muscle, okay, I want you to think of picking up a grape with your vagina. That's what it is.
Okay.
You're lifting as you exhale, and then you put the grape back down. Now, for the men out there listening, I want you to visualize like you're walking into a freshwater lake, and the temperature of that water is a little chilly, and the water gets to about mid-thigh, and everything starts to lift a little bit. That's your pelvic floor. I can't tell you, Alena, so many men have told me, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that because we don't have pelvic floors. I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh, yes, you do.
Gentlemen, you do. You do. And, I learned this stat, and this is why I co-branded this product, was because 9 out of 10 men dealing with erectile dysfunction, it is a fitness issue. It is a tight pelvic floor. And yet we tell them that there's something wrong with them, that they have to take a pill to be able to enjoy that part of their life, an essential part of their life. And we don't. We just need to pay attention to our body. So that little 1 minute, if you did that once or twice a day, you would start to feel it more organized in your body. And it really is a game changer for a lot of people.
And, it's funny because, I told you I did Pilates and I learned some of it, but it wasn't until in my life when I knew I had to start, when I first took my really deep breath. And also I sang, so we did that, but it was more attire around. Really, you need to release. And I was in the car one day and I naturally came upon this. I was teaching myself a trigger. And that is whenever I said peace, everything would relax. It was a good trigger. You know what I mean? Yeah. Shoulders would go down, breath would go down. Well, I tripped upon this feeling of, I didn't realize, and I'm mentioning this because I don't think people know. When I was breathing in, it would be so deep that lower abdomen released finally. And I don't think we realize how very tight that becomes. And that's what gives us the problem. That is the floor that turns hard as a rock. That's the floor that will start to agitate if you go through anxiety. That's the floor that you need to, when you breathe in, just release. Am I correct?
You are. And one of my favorite quotes from Joseph Pilates is, breath is the first and the last act of life, and somewhere in the middle, we forget how to do it. And
so true.
I like to talk about the trillions of cells in our body that make us are like little gas tanks. And what happens when you're in your vehicle and you get on low fuel? Your little gas tank, your little orange light or red light turns on. When our body goes through that, do you know what we experience, gang? We experience brain fog. We experience excessive fatigue. We experience it's hard to fall asleep. We get in this perpetual phase of just passively being participants of our life instead of owning it. And that's what breath does, right? There's all these different supplements and drinks you can do to give yourself an energy boost, but the best thing you can do is breathe. Without breath, our cells cannot flourish. If our cells are not flourishing, how do we expect our organs, our systems, our entire being to show up as our best version? We can't. And it's air is free, everybody. It's free, and we to be,
and we do need to learn. We do need to learn how to breathe. I've dealt with a lot of athletes that didn't learn how to breathe right. I've dealt with a lot of singers who have not learned how to breathe right. Breathing right for a particular sport, a particular, singing or whatever, is not the same as breathing to live. And when we have to breathe to live, and that it's amazing. We just don't think it's important. And yet, every time you take a breath, and if you take that breath the way we're supposed to take that breath, it recalibrates the body. And when you think of that, it's like your body all of a sudden it does that release and it gets everything back to working the way it should. Every breath. But when we cut off the breath, we're strangling our body because the oxygen doesn't get to the brain. It doesn't get to the legs. We get bad circulation. We get tight muscles. We get the anxiety. We get the brain fog. We get the eyesight that's not good. When I started breathing really well and also took off the contacts, my eyes improved.
Of course.
And isn't that amazing? How many of us think that our degeneration of our eyes is natural? It's not. And it really does come back to how are we treating our body? And are we giving it the air it needs, the food it needs, the sleep it needs? We've got to come back to our bodies are our only way to be on this earth, to make an impact on this earth, to have children, to celebrate families, to celebrate love, to reach out a hand to someone who you want to help, to write books, to develop a cooch ball. We are here, but we have to be in our body to do it. And yet the thing we don't treat well enough is our body. We push it too hard, we demand too much, or then we get very lazy and we don't care. It is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It's a wake-up call.
And then we look for something that's a quick fix, right? And those tend to not be sustainable.
No, it has to come from within. I love this. And then when that breathing is the very start of it all. And for someone who wants to start in this Pilates or this Pilates, I love. I was in a yoga position. I've done yoga forever, but you're going to love this, Jana. So I'm in this mountain pose, yoga, mountain pose. You're standing there. You're just standing. Your feet hip length apart, just very calm breathing. And you'll get this because you have 3 boys. My youngest goes, "Mom," just like that. Oh my gosh, something's happening. And I turned to my right so fast. It was reflexive. And guess what? The knee just popped right out.
No.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was a glorifying moment. And then it kept falling out. It turns out I did something to the ligament that goes from the inside of the leg to the hip. And I went through quite a few months of trying to get it back in. And I got exercises on how to keep it in, and I'm doing that. But, exercise was hard. It was hard because it would constantly go out. So I had to lay off. Well, I started to hike, and I came home, and I felt great because I love to hike. I went to Pennsylvania with my boys, and I had so much fun. Oh, my gosh. When I came home, that knee on the outside was... not good, but it wasn't out.
Not happy.
It was like bulging. And I thought, what did I do now? And I started thinking, I have got to stop this. I have got to go back to the Pilates and build the muscle in increments, in little increments. And so I've gotten out all my old tapes and I'm getting back into Pilates. It's one of the most non-evasive, but yet the most highly effective way I have found, and this is for the listeners, to build the muscles you need to without impacting the muscles you don't need to. Is that a good description of it?
That is like a beautiful way of explaining it.
Oh, thank you. So I am going back into that, and I am going to work around that ligament with very little. It's, Pilates. I know everybody has all these. I went to one place and they have all these machines. You don't need all that. You need to be able to have direct, you got to get that core. That core breath is very important. But then you just move in such little increments. You think you're not doing anything. And yet you are doing so incredibly much to build that muscle. It's like running 5 miles.
And that's just it. And the power of Pilates, exactly what you're saying, is it's in the subtlety, which is opposite to what we think fitness is, right? We think harder, faster, stronger.
Oh, we have to push. Yeah.
But exactly what you're explaining. It's the power is in the subtlety of the movement.
It's the strategic baby steps. I always talk about that. And these are the strategic baby steps. And I have started that. And I have to say, it is helping. The knee went down. It's stronger. The legs are getting stronger. So it's good. It's good. And it's not causing me grief. Hopefully when that muscle gets strong and that ligament really heals, then I can go back to my hiking and my skating and every other fun thing I like to do.
Absolutely.
So, I love the Cooch ball. I think I tried it out, my dear. I love it. It's something. There's something about when you sit on it, you really do relax. You relax all that floor. You relax down into the lower part of your body. I mean, the very lowest part. Everything relaxes. We don't relax there. So if people are interested in that, or they're wanting to learn more about Pilates or the online workshops that you have, how can they find you?
For sure. So let's start kind of with the pelvic floor health side of things. So every month I do a free 60-minute webinar called Pelvic Floor Secrets.
Like that.
The next one, it's fantastic. So I give like my 3 secrets that really are very simple, but it's just understanding how the body works. So the next one is on October 29th. And to register for that, you just go to my online studio, metadistrict.com, and it's METTA district.com, so it's 2 T's. The other thing is, while you're there at metadistrict.com, I've got 3 free videos as my gift to your listeners from one of my Pilates courses. So, you guys, the way I've designed my courses is it's not just a workout. I've got these accompanying videos called Educate Me. So the free gift is one workout called Align and Tone. It's 30 minutes. It's all about aligning the bones in your body, and that teaches your muscles how to work properly. Then there's a 9 or 10-minute video on diaphragmatic breathing, which I think everybody should do. And then there's a video on, it's a concept called the pelvic lift, which so anybody with hip pain, SI, joint dysfunction, anyone that just wants, a little bit of a tighter tush, that video is amazing. So I want to educate, and then I want to move you so you understand when you're doing the workouts with me, and I talk about neutral spine, or I talk about, axial elongation or oppositional forces. I want you to be like, I remember watching that in the Educate Me video. I know what that feels like. Now I'm going to put it into action in this workout, because what we do at the Meta District is not just about checking a box. It's about educating and re-educating the body so that what you do with me in the workout, you live in your life for the rest of your days. Because if it doesn't come back to our activities of daily living and quality of life, why are we doing it?
Exactly.
So that's where people can check me out. Yep.
I love this. And I love that you also listen to those small aha moments, the whispering of the voice that leads you forward. And folks, I tell you, it is mind, body, spirit. And if you are missing one or the other, there's a disconnect. The energy doesn't work right in the body. It doesn't work right in the manifestation. It doesn't work right in listening to the small voice. Everything it's a mind-body experience that you must have. And when everything is working to its best, oh my gosh, then you're creating. You are a co-creator in every sense of the word. If you also want to have that extreme, wonderful calm, and along with this wonderful diaphragmatic breathing, which you can apply to meditation and will help you get there even quicker, then also look at the 7-day reset on Soul Manifesto, because now you'll be a rock star. And you'll learn different ways that you can also work that mind, not only that breathing, but that mind, so that you can have the ultimate way of reaching that Zen moment in your life, every moment of your life. So go to soulmanifesto.com if you like. and check out that 7-day reset for your inner calm, to reclaim your inner calm. And also check out Jana's stuff because it's cool. This was an excellent show to get that mind, body, spirit together. Mm-hmm. Take advantage. This could be a wake-up call, folks. Don't let it go out there somewhere else. It's a sign. If you're listening, maybe it's your turn. Maybe it's your turn. Come join us. As always, guys, spirit is love. And when we start to really grasp the value of ourselves, our mind, body, spirit, we start to understand loving everyone. And that leads to spirit. I love you all. Namaste.
This has been Magical Moments with Alena, featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.